Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Thursday. Welcome to Hoops Hobby Hangout. We are here with the normal crew, Ryan, myself, Adam, and Steve. And then Mike is back with us. Thanks for joining us and hanging out. And then Frank, for the first time, is hanging out with us. So thanks for coming on. Mike was with us a couple weeks ago, and we did our player collector talk. And as the previews for today have shown, we're going to address one of those questions that was to player collectors that we didn't have time for during that first week. And then Frank, thanks for taking the time to come on. Do you mind taking a second just to kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you are, all that thing?
Sure. What's my time limit here?
An
Just
hour,
kidding.
apparently.
Collector since 1990. I did a lot of the 20 different brands that you could buy in the 90s, and I bought a little bit of everything back in the day, and I was able to appreciate the innovation the 1990s provided. And early 2000s, I got to the point where I wanted to kind of minimize my collection and decided, you know what, I'm just going to do mostly tops from, the 1950s to current. In 1995, I kind of stopped doing regular tops and I started doing chrome only. So I pretty much am a particular tops collector. I may not be the biggest fan of Fanatics necessarily, but Tops is just another company. Fanatics is not the first company that's owned them, and they won't be the last. So I focus a lot on Tops basketball, and have been for a very long time. So.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for hanging out. And if anyone's watching on YouTube, you can see Frank's YouTube channel listed there. If you're listening in, make sure to check it out. It's Frank AZHP Collectibles. So yeah, thanks for hanging out, and make sure you check out his stuff. I mean, I wasn't here last week, so it literally feels like an eternity since I've hung out with you guys. How have you guys been? You guys got anything going on? Any updates, life or hobby wise, otherwise?
Yeah, we're going to get to that. And I should have taken a screenshot, Joe, you not being here. But we did have some comments in the feed last week that I'm going to sort of toss this back to you. But I don't normally share a card, but I did get a card in this week that I wanted to share. And I know it doesn't show up on the screen, and it's going to look like just a napkin. But I got in a Derek Jones silhouette game-used warm-up swatch from, and the importance of this is it's just such a random card. It's like a $5 card. But this is a warm-up that was worn on June 17th, 2024 in Game 5 of the NBA Finals against my Boston Celtics, and that was the night that they clinched the finals. So I'm a very petty sports fan. I would love for this to be a Kyrie game worn, because to have something that he owned the night that he watched the Celtics raise banner 18 would make me very happy. But there are a bunch of Mavs in this set. Luke is in it from, I think, a Game 1 rally. Kyrie's is, I think, from Game 3, et cetera, et cetera. So Derek Jones Jr., for some reason, they took the jacket off his back to add insult to injury on the night that he lost. But I thought that was a unique piece to sort of add to my PC. And then I did normally Ryan has a jersey that kind of connects somehow to something he's going to talk about. I thought it'd be telling today if I brought my Topps poker chip, Paul Pierce poker chip with me today, based on what, the drop of Topps back in basketball, but also the news updates from today. I don't know if we ever want to hit on that, but wow, the NBA world is about to get rocked with this Chauncey Billups stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And Joey, and I'm going to make another bad joke, and at risk of being canceled, we had our own No Kings Day last week, and you weren't here. And we had chat questions, really just wanting you to, as a Kings fan with pride, be able to justify your starting lineup, some of the moves that you guys have made, and talk a little bit about what your organization's doing. So I know we're doing more player collecting stuff, but one of the things you wanted to do this week is hit on some backlog stuff. So you didn't have a chance to preview the season. Why don't you give us a little insight into what the Kings are up to? And it doesn't seem like they have much of a plan, but maybe you can tell us otherwise.
I feel like you pretty much summed it up. I don't think anyone really knows what they're up to. I think that, like, in Kingsland, everyone kind of acknowledges that this is a throwaway year because there was no way to really improve the roster around Sabonis and the young players while DeRozan and Levine were on the books. So it's kind of like, this is the last year of Levine's contract, let it run out, and then just start fresh next year, essentially, and then see what you can do. So it's I think we had chatted in our Instagram chat or whatever that about Westbrook signing. I'm actually excited because I have no hope for the team being any good. I mean, they lost to the Suns, who I think like only have Devin Booker left on their team, and last night and the season opener, and so there's not like much hope. But I'm at least going to be able to pick up cards of Westbrook in a Kings uniform because I've been a fan of Westbrook for 20 years almost since he got into the league. But to I guess just keep it more general, I'm excited just to be able to, whenever, this is a common theme in my fandom, is I got to figure out how to enjoy a season when my team sucks, right? I mean, that's just been like the story of the last 2 decades. And so for me, I'm going to watch the rookies. I mean, Nick Clifford is their first round pick from this year that we're pretty excited about. I mean, I don't think anyone's expecting him to be a franchise cornerstone or like the best player on a playoff team or anything like that. But if we can, at least have someone to cheer for and hope I can see develop and stuff like that, along with Keegan Murray, who got extended. But I guess I think nobody knows what's going on with them. But at the same time, I get to at least hopefully make positive memories. I don't know if I'll have many positive memories watching them play, but and then pick up cards of players and rookies and Westbrook. So that's kind of where I'm at. I was trying to do a projected starting 5, like Kyle started on Instagram and stuff like that. Obviously, Schroeder hasn't had any Kings cards. I've yet to have stomach picking up a Levine card in a Kings uniform. So I'm at 3 out of 5 of the starters right now. So, so I don't know. It's a bleak time right now for Kings fans.
International Schroeder is a blast to watch. NBA Schroeder is very painful to watch. I don't wish that on anybody.
Yeah. So we're stuck with him this year. And I guess for the next 3 years, he has 3-year deals, 15 million a year. I just cannot fathom. So yeah, that's where we're at.
You like Westbrook though. He's a fun player.
I mean, I've been a fan of him since his OKC days. I've always rooted for him wherever he went, and I've liked picking up cards of his. I'm going to be excited to pick up cards of his in a Kings uniform.
I think I finally bought my first Nuggets card of Westbrook in a Nuggets uniform, silhouette, the base cards.
Oh yeah.
So I think I bought a silver or something, so that'll come in.
Oh, that's not. Actually, speaking of silhouette, and Steve just shared his, which I really like that final set. It's just so cool to be able to get really, hopefully relatively cheap finals game used stuff. I got my first silhouette card. I know it was a long time in the making, but I got this Keegan Murray silhouette out of 5.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like
love
a
those,
nice patch. Obviously game worn. It's hollow foil gold, so it's yeah. So I'm excited about that part of it, and then I'm just gonna keep looking. I've been actually. Evan Pristine Paper keeps sending me some nice King silhouette stuff, so maybe we'll pick up more of that, but we'll see.
See, I'm glad we have you back, Joey, because last episode I tried to do the full screen and there was like a minute of me trying to figure out how to switch it back. So
yeah, because they changed it. I'm telling you, they used to do it different. And
it seems like it's different every time. So I'm glad to have you back. Even though you claim to not be tech savvy, you can definitely run the stream a little better than me.
Is it a high bar?
I have a couple pickups. I got one that Adam might be excited about. This is a Soul of the Game, a Gallinari. This is actually from this year's Immaculate, which I won for $11. I was actually pretty shocked about that. It's out of 14. Which I do have another shoe card of his, but it is a Clippers card, and it's got an auto, and I probably paid a ton more than $11. But thanks for giving me a heads up.
Can you hold that? And I know this doesn't help with audio, Ryan. Can you hold that up again? Adam, correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot more sort of white and negative space to that than some of the other sets, right? I feel like that it looks like a newer design, but I think all they did was kind of cut out some of the background color. I like that a lot. I think that's super
very
cool
thick
looking. Oh yeah,
and they did. Thick. We were contemplating. Well, we were wondering what they'd ship it in. And they did ship it in one of those like slider boxes. So.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Yeah, not many people have those like 360 point mags or whatever you need. And got one more, which I'm pretty excited about. So that's
There we go.
Gary Harris, 2014-15 logo man out of Immaculate. Saw it pop up from what was it? BDRR Sports Cards.
Yeah,
The guy's
Zach.
been around forever. Yeah, Zach. We were kind of reminiscing on deals we did on Blowout back in the day and stuff, and it's kind of fun. So he actually allowed me to fully trade for this card. So I traded some vet autos, things of that nature. But yeah, happy to have that one in the collection. It's actually my first rookie logo man of his, which I was telling some guys, some of you guys before we started the stream, the value of that was over double what I paid for my game worn rookie jersey of Harris. So just crazy how cards can be priced so much higher than, the full jerseys that are game worn and certified. But yep, those are my two kind of big pickups for the week.
Awesome. Anyone else got something to share?
I didn't have any big pickups or anything to share. I wasn't planning on sharing anything, but made me think of it when you showed your Soul the Game card. I had one come in, but I did not have the same fate of getting it in a proper case.
Oh no!
So they just shipped it in like a team bag. If you
It's
will.
just a team bag.
Yeah,
That's it.
it had cardboard around it initially, but I just thought of it when you were showing that you got yours shipped properly. But it is the new design as
The
well.
new set. Yeah, those are
And
clean. I like those.
what you were saying too, I have them chronologically in order in this box. Like the last few seasons are all
Okay.
pretty much white. I think that's 22 or 23, and it's 24 or whatever it is. But they're all pretty white the last couple of years. It's only like the first 2 or 3 that are predominantly team colored.
Interesting.
And that was the Andre Drummond, right? The one.
Andre Drummond, yeah.
Yeah.
So how
That's cool.
Nothing crazy. It's just I thought it was funny when you mentioned the speculation of how it would show up, how mine.
Yeah.
I was
So how did
worried.
it hold up? Did it get damaged or is it all right?
No, I think it's fine. I mean, it's Andre Drummond, and no one else cares but me, probably. So I'll live with it. But it was just funny.
Adam's got an entire rubber tree of Soul of the Game cards.
I do have a 2-row full now of just Soul
I know
of
you
the
do.
Game's non-Celtics.
Yeah. Hey. Awesome. Well, I guess that might be a good time for us to say, if you are hanging out and are interested in jumping on, the QR code is up on the screen. We'll keep it up a little bit longer. Throw the stream link in the chat if you want to join in via link, and you can just jump on and hang out. We're going to touch, I think our main focus will be, and I feel like we can spend an hour on a single question, so we'll try to avoid that. But our main focus will be 2 questions that had come up in the previous month or so over the various topics that we've been talking about, and we just didn't get a chance to address. And one of them, the first one, was when we had our player collectors week, and that question was, how do player collectors manage all the buying platforms? I didn't want to write the whole thing out, so it didn't take up the whole screen. So I'll just read the entire thing if you'll bear with me for a minute. And specifically, it was asked, there's so many auction sites, Instagram, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, ComC, Discord, Reddit, card shows, all those. How do you navigate searching cards you need on those sites or on those platforms? And then are there any best practices or tips for efficiency you have? And I guess it'd be a good idea, Mike, to have you start us off, since you're the Glenn Rice guy. So
yeah, thanks. That's a really good question. I think, above all, because it's really hard to keep track of everything on your own, it is, super helpful to have friends in the hobby that may find something that tag you on certain, posts and Instagram, or send you links through Facebook and some of those groups in case you can't get to them for that particular day. So one, just socialize and talk with other collectors about what they like. And then, of course, returning the favor to them, right? So if you see something cool, I think, Ryan, I think I even sent you that Gary Harris logo.
Yeah.
You probably saw it already, but you probably got 5 or 6 different messages about it.
Oh, yeah. I was actually going to mention that. Yeah, because not only did you send it, but 6 or 7 other people. That I was actually going to mention that and forgot.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the cool part about it. People were just like, hey, I saw the show up. I would have probably seen it eventually, but that was really awesome to see.
But sometimes, even a player like Gary Harris, someone may have just grabbed both of those copies up, right, pretty quickly. Even if you would have seen the post an hour or two later, it may have been, too late at that point. But
True.
so just sharing, back and forth with one another. And you're right, there's a ton of platforms out there. And I guess it depends on really kind of who you collect as a player collector. So yes, eBay is going to be just a hyper obsessive refresh, 616 times a day, right? That you're looking for new listings. And I think we're at this point, if you've been doing this long enough, like you are just completely trained to search that, all the time. But then, for a player like Rice, on some of the bigger platforms, he's not going to have a ton of cards that pop up, for auction or for sale. So you talk about your Goldens or your Fanatics, right? There will be cards from time to time on those sites of his, but they're very few and far between. It's some of the more obscure sites like Mercari or again the Facebook groups where you're searching for less expensive, lesser well-known variations of cards from the 90s that you're going to be able to find those cards there. But yeah, I mean, there is a certain degree of obsession about it, right? And if you're wired a certain way, like I am, I'm a creature of habit, and I have my processes for checking all those particular sites. Card Ladder, even if you're not a paid subscriber to Card Ladder, there is a shop feature that they do offer at no charge, to those that visit their app, where you can search a player and it'll show you all the cards that are listed for sale of that particular player on all the different various auction platforms that they work with. So those are just some tricks from an efficiency standpoint, to be able to quickly assess whether or not there's a card that you're looking for there. But just putting yourself out there as well on social media platforms, letting people know what you want, what you're looking for, can sometimes lead to some direct messages that point you in the directions of cards that you may be looking to buy.
That's really, I had no idea about the card ladder feature. That's really cool to know, because like I would love a place that accumulates all those different platforms. So that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. I was going to ask about the obsessive eBay searches, and Drew mentions in the chat that he replaced his obsessive eBay searching with Facebook group searching. And it's probably, like he says, a lot more of a luck thing, because obviously not as many cards are showing up on Facebook groups. But since he brought that up in the chat, Gary was asking, what recommendations, or does anyone have recommendations on good Facebook groups? So Drew, if you want to throw any Facebook groups you've got in mind in the chat, or if anybody knows any good Facebook groups you can go to keep track of cards, good places that cards come for sale. Does anyone have anything that they're familiar with?
The main one is there's just a general NBA basketball cards buy, sell, trade one that has about 50,000 followers, and it's the wild, wild west there. There's good and bad, but if you go there and then ask for others, like I've had good luck with one called, I think it's like Worldwide NBA. There's some other ones that are general sports cards ones, but I would join the one, like go find 2 or 3 general, buy, sell, trade ones on Facebook, and then ask within that group, and you'll get direct links, and you'll be able to talk to someone about whether it's a well-moderated group or not. Facebook can be a wild. I've found Facebook to be a less reliable source recently, but definitely just like I said, join one that has 50,000, 100,000 people in the group, and then ask them there, and you'll literally just get a link that you can click on and join. Because they'll specialize. There'll be ultra modern ones. There'll be Prism only breaks. There'll be WNBA only ones. Like there'll be specialized ones from there that you can kind of wean down to. But most everybody's in those 2 or 3 big ones.
Yeah, Steve, like NBA hotspots probably one of the ones you're referring to.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I was going to mention that one.
Yeah, if you look for like 90s player collectors, there's a solid group, the 90s basketball card collectors. It is a good group to be in if you're looking for those types of cards. But there's probably like 5 or 6 different groups that you can join. And like you said, it's hit and miss. And And it does take a lot of time and scrolling and, looking at those sale posts. But, sometimes you do hit something that you're interested in, and I have acquired a handful, a decent handful of cards through that Facebook platforms in the past.
What I
Yeah,
think is
yeah.
helpful with using social media and it's I think Mike brings up a good point with Glenn Rice and only looking for a certain thing. If I'm going on looking for Paul Pierce cards, Celtics collectors are maniacs, so that one's tough to scroll through. But every now and then, I'll just put out a post of looking for like Jay Crowder cards, and it's almost just like throwing a lure into the water and just letting it sit there for a little bit. And randomly, I'll get a DM from someone saying, "Hey, I found your post that you collect this random player. I have this stuff available." So part of it is also just putting your stuff out there, letting people know what you're looking for. But if you're looking for LeBron, Luka, Kobe, so is everybody else. But if you're looking for more specific stuff, sometimes it's just about making a post and letting it marinate a little bit.
Yeah, and there's also Facebook groups for specific people. I'm part of like a Tyrese Halliburton cards group, so there's been stuff that's come up on there that I've been interested in, and I might have gotten a card from there in the past. So yeah, obviously they may not have the obscure players or the bench warming players or whatever, but I mean, if you have a specific set, a specific like brand of card, Topps Chrome or Panini Prism, or a specific player or team, you might be able to find one specific to that player or team.
There's even pages dedicated just one-of-ones, right? So
right.
if you're, that tends, if you're looking for something super obscure, there are a couple of one-of-one Facebook pages that you can look at.
You guys are making me wanting to get on Facebook more than once a year. Every time I get on there, I gotta like reset my password and stuff. But yeah, I definitely do not use Facebook groups, but maybe I will now.
Yeah, I found them, like Steve said, kind of decreased in quality over the last few years. I don't know if everyone's had similar experiences. Like, I just don't know that the quality of the cards up there are quite as good. It feels a little bit more of like a flipper vortex than collectors sharing cards and stuff. But no, it's definitely good. And Drew also mentioned a 90s one called Tough 90s Inserts. That's another one that he mentioned for 90s cards. Does anyone have anything they want to ask about the blind platforms, or any comments they want to add?
I'm just glad we have these platforms in the first place, because I remember the the Beckett alphabetical player checklist that you had to buy, and it was like this thick. It was like a quarter of the size of the yearly Beckett's, and then you had to just card shops, card shows. That was it. You didn't, there was no internet. So we are very, very lucky nowadays. Of course, back then there were 2 to 3 parallels max, and now you look at a product and it's got 40 parallels. So ComC is a blessing for that, but can't really provide much input on the Facebook, just because the only thing I really do on Facebook is like local. There's local groups. Obviously, if you're a player collector and you're looking everywhere, that's not going to help too much there. But we should be very grateful for the internet the way it is, to be able to collect like we do with certain players.
Saved eBay searches and Gixin to snipe.
You told me about Gixin, and I still use it. Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome because
it's date night. I can't be on my phone on eBay because I'm out having dinner with the girlfriend. Gixin it is. All right.
There is something about sitting there. Yeah, like, sitting there waiting for the auction to end, placing the last minute bid. It can be fun every once in a while, but I see the card, I figure out my max price, put it into Gixin, and then, a week later, maybe I'm surprised. So that's how I do it nowadays.
I had a couple of things I wanted to ask. So I agree with you, Frank, and I will say that all those platforms can sometimes lead to like really getting things at a good price. I remember listening to, I think it was a vintage baseball YouTube channel or something, and somebody mentioned that they got like a game worn jersey from a baseball player from the 60s off of one of those REA heritage websites or something for $20 or something, right? It's an obscure player, not a Hall of Famer or something, but you can definitely get some good deals if you're really vigilant about the different platforms. But I do want to ask about eBay, because we're talking about the obsessive eBay searching. And I think, Mike, you mentioned checking your eBay searches multiple times a day. I personally, I don't know about you guys, but like I have enough saved searches on eBay that I can't. Well, first of all, the saved searches, is anyone's saved searches glitching right now? Because I'm only getting like updates on a certain fraction of them. I don't know if you guys are experiencing the same thing.
Not necessarily the save searches by themselves, but when you try to sort the save searches, even if you have certain categories checked, or if you have like a minus in your search for like, if you're looking for Topps Chrome and you don't want Cosmic and you do minus Cosmic on your save search, but then you group by newly listed, or if you group by lowest price or something like that, then the actual minus won't even work. And sometimes you'll even get stuff from other sports, even though, you know, that may be saved in. So there is some glitching on eBay for sure on their searching, but
Yeah, and I have more searches than I'd like to admit to saved, and it's like maybe 20 of them that actually update, and then the rest just show that there's never any cards added. Even a search of Tyreek Evans, that's one of my saved searches. So anything Tyreek Evans, basketball card or memorabilia or whatever, but it just never updates for me, and I never get it listed as having new listings. So I don't know, but
mine work pretty well. But I also refuse to set a saved search for Jay Crowder, because I'm just gonna. It's almost muscle memory to type that in, and I just don't trust him enough that I'm just gonna do the refresh thing, like Mike said. I mean, I'm probably typing Jay Crowder in my sleep sometimes and don't even realize it, and then I'm doing the pull down on my screen to refresh it. And so I've definitely noticed that some of my players, like, you know, some like my daughter's favorite player in the WNBA is Dejanay Carrington, so I have a save search for her, and I've for the first time in like 2 months I saw one of her cards pop up with that blue thing next to it. I'm like, I know people are listing at least base cards all over the place, so I've definitely, but I don't check my save searches enough to know if they're glitching, because I check for Crowder and 1 or 2 other players, and then I just let my save searches populate, and I'll check them, you know, when I get bored.
I've definitely noticed mine not populating as often as they should. And I've also noticed the same with the grouping of cards not being selected with like the quotients or the minus signs. Mm-hmm. What I found, if the card isn't something, or the search isn't something too broad where there's not thousands of actual listings, once I bring up the grouping of them that shows too many options, I filter highest first. And then it kicks out a lot of the fluff that doesn't make sense with my search. I don't know why that tricks the system. But again, if you're searching something vague and there's 15 new listings, they're showing you thousands of fake things, and there's actually several hundred or thousands of actual listings. When you do highest first, it's not filtering just the newest, it's filtering all items highest to lowest. So it kind of skews things. But something more obscure that you might be looking for that may only have 5, 10, 20 active listings any given time, that's been my workaround for it. But I've definitely been seeing a lot of the glitches and having to manually go through, because like you, I have way too many saved searches. I've hit the max and had to reduce and hit the max and reduce many times. Yeah. So I've got tons of them. But yeah, whenever I see something as I'm scrolling through that I know is like a daily or hourly update of active listings, I just click it even without the little blue mark, and it shows them to me, and they're obviously still there. It's just not giving you the update.
Yeah. So I guess that was where my question was. If you have so many active searches, like, do you check your 150 active or saved searches multiple times a day? Or are you just going through that once a day? I mean, because I can't fathom going through it in the morning, in the afternoon, and at night.
I'm feeling judgment by the way you said that, but yes, I do pretty much. I cast a wide net. Steve always gives me a hard time about searching all the different places consistently, but I have a routine. Like Thursday nights, you guys interfere with my alt and golden searches, and then on every other night there's auction. Like tonight's also Fanatics premiere. Like I go through all of those because I collect a pretty wide array of things. It's not just one player that I'm fanatical about. So there's going to be something on all of those that could pop up that I might be intrigued by. So I try to look at all those, and then like Sunday's Heritage and Fanatics. And so I look at those every week. It kind of as a routine on top of the multi times per day I go through the entire 100 or whatever save searches I have.
I look forward to that when I send my kids off to college.
I look at it in the morning. and that's it. Scroll through it, start working, and then the next day I'll check it out again.
Mine
That's
is
my routine.
mine is at night. Once I put the kids down for bed, I go through my eBay searches, and then that's my only time.
And to be fair, I don't
Right.
necessarily look at every single one multiple times a day, but there's some that are, I don't know, they're frequent enough listings where there's something I'm looking for, like trying to think of an example I could even pull out of the top of my head, but like I've been liking like the new flawless scoring titles subset. So when those get listed, I check those a few times a day to see if like a unique player 1 of 1 pops up or something like along those lines. Whereas I may not search for, I don't know, Bailey Howell patch cards, but once every couple of days because they're not listed at any frequency. Just as a random example.
Hey man, you don't have to defend yourself. We're all obsessive, and it's okay.
No, like I said, I feel judged for the way you said it, so I had to speak for myself. I was being attacked. Well, this was a safe place. Jeez.
Anything else about these buying platforms? I'm sure like we could discuss all of them. There's a lot that Adam just mentioned that we barely touched on, but
the only thing I'll say is just find the ones that work right for you, right? Like and just know those best. And I'll agree with Mike. There's nothing more important than having your name out there. Like some of my rarest cards that come from people tagging me, and you know, just and I've done the same for others, but I use eBay mostly. I use ComC. I could tell you ComC inside and out. I use Card Hobby a lot to the point where I know Jay Crowder's Chinese characters for his last name to make the search easier. So like those are like the 3 that I use. For a guy like Crowder, I wouldn't bother checking Fanatics. And when something pops up there, somebody knows to let me know, but I'm not going to pay the buyer's premium for his stuff. But find the systems that work right for you and spend the time to get to know how to navigate them best. Because there are, like Frank was saying, some of them you can weed out different stuff. Like if you don't want Monopoly Prism, you can weed that stuff out. So just kind of find your comfort zone and know that you can't find it all, you know, and just get a routine that works for you and then just put your name out there.
awesome. And I'm sorry, Sean mentions eBay's blocked at his office, so that's tough. I
It's a
definitely
blessing in disguise.
Oh yeah, maybe. But that's tough if you have like an auction ending. I know you guys talked about sniping or like this morning, a card I've been looking for a while popped up, and then someone sent it to me. Steve sent it to me, Frisbee Steve, and I like instantly offered on it and made a deal on it. And I would have not had that for 10 hours if I couldn't access it at work. So yeah. All right, very cool. So not a bad time at the halfway point to kind of transition to the second question. And we talked about our thoughts on Panini and its time with the basketball card license. And there's a lot of us here. I think we have different levels of which we collect Panini. And so if anyone wants to go through their the question was top 3 sets, but just their top sets from the Panini era. And I think we had discussed whether that could potentially be specific year releases or just overall set releases. But if anyone has anything that
I want to get my irrelevant opinion out of the way right away, just because you know, I decided to not do Panini in 2010. I did finally cave in December 2022, I think, and started doing optic singles. The entirety of new Panini product that I purchased within that 14-year time period or whatever was 3 optic basketball blaster boxes. So I pretty much just did optic because it was a chrome replacement. Essentially, Donruss and Donruss Optic are exactly the same as Topps and Topps Chrome. So that's all I did. So I unfortunately can't really contribute a whole lot to this conversation. I'll let these high rollers over here with their flawless and immaculate and all this talk about their products.
Well,
I actually was gonna mention optic though, Frank. It's actually probably one of my top favorite sets because, like you said, it is pretty much the chrome
clean,
equivalent.
bordered, minimalistic. That's just right up my alley. So you know, it worked.
Is there something you guys like about that more than Prism? I know we talked about Prism a little bit.
Prism is awful.
Why is that?
I know we're supposed to be talking about the best, not the worst. not silver knockoff finest versions with fart lines. That's what I call them. Fart lines.
It's a great
They're
description.
waves. Irrelevant, completely irrelevant waves in the background. Awful photo selection. And also the borders are like 60% of the card. Like, what am I paying for here? You know, like I'm getting this tiny little photo of the player with gigantic borders, and that to me is Prism. So I hate Prism with a passion. You go back and look at previous base editions of Prism, and then you will understand what I mean by fart lines.
So you guys must be thrilled then that Optic or Prism is the more, I guess, sought after in terms of price, right? Because you can get the cards you want cheaper.
Yeah, it's actually true. Well, and you know, it's hard to say like the whole run, you know, what's the best Chromium, because, you know, we didn't have Optic until what, 2016? I think that was when they introduced it. But I agree. And the number one thing for me as well, Frank, is the photo choice. So I'm really big on photos. That's actually why I don't plan to buy any tops or have any interest, because I watch a couple breaks and they're like all just guys dribbling and holding the ball, and I hate that. So
Tops has always had traditionally like really good photo selection, though. I'm surprised you feel that way.
Yeah, well, there's a couple cards. So like the Westbrook, he's shooting. I think Jokic is maybe coming down with a rebound. But every other like Nuggets card I saw come out of Tops is just a guy dribbling or holding the ball. It looks like Hoops has been forever. It looks like, you know, the last couple of years Don Russ and stuff. So I'm not super hyped on it, but, you know, we'll see. Maybe the actual Chrome releases, they'll come up with something different. But yeah, I agree.
Stadium Club. Think about Stadium Club. That was always a very photo first type of a product.
Yeah.
So I am cautiously optimistic that those types of a release, I'm sure they'll do it eventually, will maybe be something that you find interest in, Ryan, with a good photo selection.
I hope so. Yeah, you know, and I don't think they have a lot of necessarily need to do it nowadays, because people just buy it because it's a rare, quote unquote, rare parallel or whatever they think. So they don't really need to focus too hard on the photo choices. That's why, you know, Panini was able to make something like photogenic and people get hyped about it, because we haven't had anything like that. That was maybe more closer to like Stadium Club, like you're talking about, Mike, than anything else in the past couple of years. So we'll see. Yeah. But yeah,
what I think needs to play out over. Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No,
sorry,
you're good.
Cut you off, Ryan. You lagged on my end a little bit. I think what needs to play out a little bit over time, and I don't think probably we know enough about, but we have learned over the last few years that there are a lot of just sports photographers that are able to sell their photos to Panini, and I'm assuming Tops now. Whereas when you look back at the 90s and 2000s, there was obviously a lot more integration with the game as far as the photos. I mean, we had cameras behind the backboards. We had cameras on top of backboards. One of, you know, a card that I know Adam had in his possession once was an overhead shot of Jason Varitek catching, you know, a fastball over the plate. So there was cameras in stadiums that were somehow being used. Like I said, those behind the glass sets. Whereas now, you know, that famous LeBron Prism card where he's doing the Kobe dunk, that was a sports photographer that was able to grab that picture that works for the forum or has a contract to work at the forum and then sold the picture. So, you know, like I think what Ryan's referencing is Series 1 basketball or flagship basketball, whatever it's called, just got released. I would say the majority of the photos are just straight on pictures of a guy standing on the court. Like Jason Tatum's not even holding a basketball. He's literally just standing there, like watching a timeout happen or something. So I think comparing, you know, even 0809 Chrome, where they had these very dynamic shots from, you know, from the crowd or from behind a backboard or at the scorer's table to what we're seeing now, I think it just needs to play out a little bit of, you know, we can get away a little bit from just a sideline photographer and maybe some more of these dynamic shots or different angles and stuff. And even the way they, like, I actually got a chance to talk to Paul Pierce about the way they did the photo shoot back in when he was a rookie and what they were doing for him then versus, you know, now they're just doing most of those pictures of guys standing with their jersey or their arms out by their side. So I just think there's probably not as much art put into it and probably not as much integration with the leagues as far as the photography. And that's just cut back on some of the quality of the photos. But I agree with you, Mike, that I think Stadium Club Baseball still makes some very dynamic photos. And I don't know if anybody's followed that, but I bought a few. One of my favorite recent ones is a clubhouse photo from Ortiz celebrating in Fenway Park, a World Series, right? So they are still intentionally putting some very dynamic photos in some of their stuff. But this first release of basketball is, I haven't watched any of the breaks, but from what I've heard, is letting people down more than it's encouraging people.
And the
Which is
price
so
point on that stadium clip tends to be, favorable to collectors. For baseball, it has been, historically anyway, even in the modern releases, compared to photogenic or, some of these higher end Panini products, which were very, very expensive, and you got very few cards in a box. So I think, if you reflect on like the last, I don't know, call it 13 years, whatever it's been since, kind of Panini came out, you're going to find some good stuff. You're going to find some stuff that was maybe not quite as inspiring that you like it to be, and just personal taste. So for me, and Steve, I don't think you like Select, right? You're not a Select guy.
I am not.
I liked some of like the earlier Select type of products, but more specifically, like their courtside golds had this really nice gold checkered pattern on them. I'll show a quick example here. This is Ryan. You'll like this one because you can see Jokic in the background.
Oh, nice.
Watching Steph going for a righty layup, but I find these to be really, really well designed.
I do like those gold checkerboard ones. Those are nice for sure. I think I got out of Select when it went retail because it just seemed like the parallels exploded. And I actually did. I think I picked up a Porter Jr. checkerboard from 2020. That's probably my sole purchase after like whenever it went retail. When did we determine that was? I think we were having a conversation about this.
It was right. It
in a
was
group
right around
chat.
the pandemic. I think that it doesn't
Right.
matter. They started with
I think it was
football, and the football
2021.
guys told us to watch out, and then it came to basketball. But I'll agree with Mike there. I think the court side and in football, the field level stuff, even with it doesn't matter value. I think that stuff always looks good. Like I'll grab a Brady field level silver or blue, and I've got some Celtics courtside silvers that they have very dynamic shots. It's almost like the players coming off the court into the card. I think they've done a good job with those over the years, and that's one I'll agree. I definitely agree with you that my dislike of Select is just when it first dropped, I didn't like it. I just couldn't get that taste out of my mouth. It just wasn't the design that I liked. But those courtside cards are really nice.
The 2012 Select really didn't do much for me personally. I've had a couple of cards, some golds that they really didn't stand out as really shiny or could have used a lot more gold on them. But then you get to 2013, 2014, and they definitely start to pop more. I don't have much 2012 Prism, right, which started it all, and I know that the hype around that has gotten pretty crazy over the years. My only basketball 2012 Prism would be a Derrick Rose. Being from Chicago, that's a card that I like. And they still, they had photos on the back of them too, full color, action shots, which were pretty good. So I know that it's really overhyped, but they are also really, really nice looking cards.
Cool. I know we veered off a little bit, but Drew shared his love for Optic too, and Flagrant Foul SC, which I don't know if I've seen you in the chat before. So welcome. Thanks for hanging out. He wanted our thoughts on flagship Donruss, not Optic, but Donruss. And he mentioned that he thought the hollow laser parallels were a great bang for your buck. And anybody that's listened before knows that I am in the camp on that one. Like you're preaching to the choir. Like I collect King's Donruss lasers. So so I'll step aside and let someone else talk
about the flagging on that, Joey, because I knew you'd have some comments on it.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's one of your favorites is the lasers, right?
Yeah, it is. It's one of my favorite parallels, and obviously, like you guys mentioned, the Donruss photos are pretty good. I think that those parallels look great on the in-game action shots. I actually did happen to get a couple recently of the lasers. One, Flagrant Foul mentioned the gold out of 10, and I did pick up a Sabonis from last year. It was a Sabonis laser out of 10 from 23-24, which unfortunately isn't a great photo. His photo on 24-25 is like him like screaming after whatever, a dunk or whatever. The Monk from this year, the Malik Monk, is 24-25. This is they kind of went crazy on the parallels. I think this is, you can see it's a blue green out of 30. You might not be able to see. Yeah, it's like 24 out of 30. But yeah, I love the Donruss lasers. It's like the action shot with the photo effect on it, or the laser effect on it. I agree, it's beautiful. And I think I've mentioned some of my favorite years are 24-25 and then 26-17. I think they're great. I even think they're great on inserts. Like, I just think they look good all around. And to shout out the whole bang for your buck, I agree that it's a great bang for your buck, because Photogenic has those laser parallels, the laser design. I don't know if they're called lasers, but they have the laser parallels, and they're numbered to I think there's only one of that design in the or of that effect in the rainbow. And I imagine, I imagine they run a lot more, you know, like a Sabonis out of 10 is like a $10 card, which is great. You know, I think this monk I got for $2 shipped, you know, so it's like, it's such good value. And I think a lot of people would attribute that to the sheer amount of parallels, which is probably true. But as a collector, like, I don't really care, because I get to get great looking cards, great looking photos, great use of foil. And that's in reference to the 24-25 for way less than I probably would if I was getting the same effect on the Photogenic. So,
and they don't have the lasers in optic, right? They're just in base, I think. Isn't that right?
I think,
which is kind of cool. I mean, you get the gold vinyl, I think, in optic,
and the velocities.
Yeah, but having that parallel just sit there and just in the base cards, I think it's kind of neat. So yeah, I like them as well. Especially, I think you brought them up on the hobby boards on a post some time back, and I'm like, oh, I actually do like those. I think I have a Millsap 101, which I always thought was really cool, and I got it for $50 or something like that. So
yeah, really my only 101 is the Harrison Barnes that I got for around the same price.
Nice.
Drew had a question about the 2012. The reverse photos are unique. I don't think they're unique. I think they're the same as the front, right?
So yeah, they have. So here's the rows. Here's the front, and then which is kind of cropped, and then on the back, they expanded. So Steve, you can see Pierce trying to catch up to Derrick Rose there, likely unsuccessfully. I'm trying to track down a D Rose fast break. He's trying though. He's trying.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool though, that they at least changed the look of the photo, even if it's the same picture.
Yeah, they definitely put more of a horizontal landscape mode on that back shot.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out, Pre-War Dreams. Even if you do more of the vintage stuff, it's cool that you're hanging out and talking modern stuff. I think, Steve, it's your time. Tell us about the 12-13 marquee. Am I assuming correctly that's in your top sets? I know you alluded to it last week. I don't know if you'd consider it top.
He's busting my chops, because it's one when we were talking about just looking back in Panini, it's one of the sets that I brought up is 12-13 had a lot of good offerings, but they also just had a lot of offerings. And 12-13 marquee, while I do like the base set and the full levels, is not up there as a top set for me. I'm going to bring up a random one, and what I love about it is it actually does connect back to the 90s, and I'm a huge fan of Panini's first 2 years, specifically 17-18 Panini Status. And what I really like about Panini Status is it's a good-looking set. It's got some foil to it. The rookies pop a little bit. There's a fun insert in there called Rookie Credentials, which is, I mean, they're not rare, but it's just a fun way to connect the draft class. They have Status Aspiration, Status, which are a mirrored parallel card. So if Jaylen Brown's numbered to 7, I forget the orientation, whether the status of the Status Aspiration. One is numbered to his jersey number, and the other is his jersey number minus 100. So there'd be an out of 7 and out of 93. And then they have the Pursuit die cuts, which are super rare. And that whole idea of the Status and the Aspiration cards goes back to Donruss's time in the 90s. There's football, there's baseball iterations of it. And Panini's been very consistent with those inserts or parallels dating back to 2009. So there's a real heritage behind it. So when those came out as a standalone set and were integrated into it with some nice looking cards, some guys like KD had on card autos. There's game used relics in it. It was a cheap break. It was a fun break. I put together both the 17-18 base set and the 18-19 base set. 18-19 was retail only, so it gets a little funky, but just some fun stuff. They had some draft, I forget what they called. Like the draft day autos were in that in 18-19. Signed the oversized acetate piece and put in the cards. So that's I talked about 12-13 Crusade last time when we were talking about this, but I'm going to give a shout out for Status, and just that's one of those sets I think Panini doesn't get enough credit for in different iterations, recognizing the Donruss heritage that brought them into the space, whether it be with National Treasures or some of these Donruss and Elite and certified sets that they've kept with. And so little shout out for Status is my number 2 favorite set.
I didn't realize. So Status and Aspiration Parallels in the 90s were also numbered the same way.
Yeah, they had and I'm going to sound like a buffoon because I didn't research this all the way, but they did have Status or Aspiration Parallels of like hockey and stuff in the mid to late 90s that were like out of 500 and stuff. But starting in the late 90s with football, and then early 2000s with football and baseball, they started to do the jersey number thing. So you could get a David Ortiz out of 34 and a David Ortiz out of 66, and they were die cuts, in 02, 03, 04 Elite Baseball, which is a Donruss brand. So that, yeah, it's one of those sneaky things that they've done, even like Totally Certified or Certified, they've done the mirror stuff. That mirror stuff goes all the way back to original Certified stuff. So they've snuck in some lineage stuff throughout the years that I don't think people give them enough credit for.
Very cool. We're getting close to ending here, so I want to make sure Adam and Mike get some time to throw in their top or favorite sets. Do you guys have any sets that you would say like, hey man, I'm just figuring out basketball cards. I saw that there were only Panini cards for 17 years. What is like the best or your favorite Panini set in terms of just quality of the cards in the set and whatever?
For me, it's kind of tough. I know most of you guys just mentioned sets that have really good like photography and just kind of like designs, parallels, things like that. I'm as more of like a Hall of Fame autograph and patch collector. There's, for me, very few sets that are just all encompassing. So it's usually like finding a singular subset or like a singular card in a particular set for a handful. So I mean, obviously like the cop-out answer would be like NT, Immaculate, Flawless, saying that those are the most commonly found sets that I have cards I have interest in. But to kind of deviate from that, the two that came to mind as you guys were talking about the photography and kind of overlapping my autograph or patch interests, the noir sets, a lot of the spotlight signatures and things like that have some really good in-action photography along with on-card autographs. And usually like the foil and ink and stuff is usually pretty cohesive and looks pretty good. But then also the Panini One Timeless Moments, they're kind of the closest thing you would see to maybe the canvas offerings you saw in Chronology back from Upper Deck days. But they have some really cool photography in those that I really like. So I think those two are pretty cool. Obviously, like I said, NT, Flawless, Immaculate have things year in, year out that I like. NT did a couple ABA basketball sets that I'm really into. The Immaculate shoe cards that we talked about in the very beginning. Like there's different things like that I really like over the years, but kind of tying together the photography aspect, the two that I could think of were the Timeless Moments and the Noir Spotlights. And they do different ones. They do like the sneaker ones. They do just like in-action photography ones. Just I think Spotlight Signatures, they call those. There's some pretty cool stuff in there.
Yeah, good shout outs. I know Evan shouted out Noir the last time we talked about Panini. So yeah, very cool. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of passion because, Rice was predominantly in that, 90s and early 2000s era. And if I do have Panini cards, it's typically like side PC guys or that I collect, maybe a little bit less passionately. So yeah, but everything that's been mentioned has been, really, really great. I'm familiar with all those products and those are great. So yeah.
Awesome. I
can give Panini a little bit more credit.
Yeah.
So some of them were hit or miss. And I know we already mentioned like the whole base design and the parallels for, paper Donruss and Optic. But I do give them credit for some of the inserts for Optic. They didn't have a lot to pull from the, let's say, the 90s era or whatever, since they didn't necessarily make a lot of stuff back then, but they kind of created a certain culture with like the splash or winner stays or T-321, my house, like some of those where they did that particular insert set in multiple years. It gave me a lot of vibes of the late 90s when you had Season's Best, Apparitions, Coast to Coast. You know, they maybe it was kind of copying a little bit of that style from like a Tops or whatever, but I think that, and they definitely weren't all hits. You know, you could have My House one year and they look great, My House another year and they looked like ass. But for the most part, I think that they did a fairly decent job on the creators, on the designers on Panini for those inserts. And it gave me a lot of that late 90s vibes that I did enjoy in that product. So I got to give them a little bit of credit for that one. It's hit or miss, but.
Yeah, very cool. I agree. I thought that starting in 1920, especially with Zion's rookie year, it seemed like Panini really put in time and effort to make sure those inserts and optic were really nice, because I imagine they're trying to capitalize on the Zion hype. So I agree. I think they did a really good job with that. And some of those cards are really, really beautiful. Ryan, can I give you a chance to shout something out? Because I know you talked about optic, but what's something kind of unique or like that individually that hasn't been mentioned yet that you feel is one of those top couple Panini sets?
I think we mentioned it a couple episodes back, but the 17-18 Essentials set, which I'm going after the Platinums, which I think I found another one on ComC. I think I found the Lonzo Ball the other day, so I think I'm down to 8 now.
Awesome.
For that set. But that was a great set. I don't know if it's really in my top 3. I'd say my top 3 probably are going to be like Optic, Prism, just because I've collected it for so many years, and probably Flawless. I mean, because it just, that encompasses the cool patches and autos. But definitely Panini Essentials just did it that one year. You can actually find it in Chronicles as well. After that, they used the design because Chronicles is kind of the catch-all Panini set, where they had a bunch of the maybe one-off sets they did or stuff they discontinued. But really reminiscent of like the Flair Showcase, if you are familiar with those from the 90s. Really like them. I'll throw a photo up for our edited video.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Y'all can see it, but yeah, just great cards.
Yeah, I want to shout out to what I think doesn't get enough credit in the Panini era, and I think that is the pre-2011 lockout stuff. Like, I think that I know there were issues with 0910 and 1011, but some of the stuff they did is very, very underappreciated in terms of design. Like, I think the NT designs in those years, a lot of those subsets, including the RPAs, were way better designed than some of the later years, and even like 2013, 2012 years. I think that whereas they became better with technology after that lockout, the 2011 lockout, I think their designs were really, really good. So NT, for example, now they use a lot more foil, and some of the foil they use on NT in the last 5-6 years is amazing. I think the design in 0910 and 1011, I really like the 1011 RPAs for NT. But I think Absolute Memorabilia was amazing until like 15-16 or 16-17. But like 0910 and 1011, Absolute Memorabilia certified, like the patches they had and certified and totally certified were great. So I just don't think they get enough love for those early first couple years. Anyone else have anything they want to add? I mean, we're right here at the hour mark. So does anyone else have anything, highlights in terms of the Panini era to add?
Not in basketball.
Is yours football?
Yeah.
Oh, what is that?
I mean, it's kind of a good and a bad, but a couple of years ago, I think it was maybe not last year, but the year before, Panini made Prism based off the 1994 Pacific Prisms. So they had the mosaic style background, player cut out, single color in the background. I was a huge fan of Pacific Prisms. as an insert in 92. And then in 93, 94, 95, they kind of changed it up a little bit where a bunch of them were like horizontal or something. But I did like the fact that they were kind of, I like older designs with new players. What can I say? And I did like that. I was a little bit annoyed because they had a just straight up silver foil in the background instead of giving us a silver mosaic by default. So to me, it kind of felt like a cop out. Like, okay, if you get any of the color parallels, they'll give you the mosaic effect with the color. But if you get the absolute base, it's just silver instead of a silver mosaic. So, but I did like that. I would have liked to see more of that. Panini owns a lot of brands with their purchase when they made that purchase in, what was it, 07 or something, when they purchased Playoff, Donruss, Leaf, or the old Leaf stuff. And they could have used a lot of that to their advantage. Like, they own Action Packed. Those of you in the 90s, and even though we didn't get Action Packed basketball, aside from some promo cards, I believe in 1990, where the Jordan goes for like $60, $70. I would have really liked to see stuff like that on a technology basis here in the 2020s, where we had the Upper Deck holograms in the 90s. We had Action Packed where they were popping out of the card, and it was embossed. We had a lot of innovation, and I feel like because of Panini owning the exclusive license and exclusive licenses in general, and I'm sure Topps is going to do the same thing as well, we didn't have that competition in the market really pushing boundaries. I really, really would have liked to see other companies pick up what Upper Deck was doing with holograms. I know that was somewhat of a proprietary technology, but or a copyrighted or whatever the case is. But I don't know. I feel like Panini did a lot of good things and bad things, just like every company. So nothing new there.
Something Abra Calabro mentioned on the hobby boards. Like, he mentioned that recently this week. Like, they did a ton of great stuff that was 100%, and then a ton of terrible stuff. So yeah, I mean, it echoes that, I think.
Get signed up for the hobby boards, thehobbyboards.com.
Yeah, keep the conversation going all week. Okay, cool.
We did bring it up, Frank. We were talking about we don't promote it enough, but yeah, actually I moved the host. It's a lot faster. Thanks for those that were trying to get on for a week and it was down, but we are back up.
Nice. All right, can someone send us off?
Well, I got a Nuggets game to catch, so thanks for joining everyone this week, and happy first game for whatever team you're following. We'll catch you next week.
Awesome.
See you guys.
Do well, everybody.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Bye.
Look forward to talking about Topps.
Yeah, jump on more.